Have you ever noticed that the moments you overthink the most are often the moments that matter the least? You replay conversations that ended days ago. You imagine problems that haven't happened yet. You create dozens of worst-case scenarios in your mind, and before anything even goes wrong, you've already exhausted yourself. And here's the real question. What if overthinking isn't the problem? What if the real problem is that you've stopped trusting yourself? Because confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is the ability to move forward even when fear is present. And the reason so many people feel stuck today is not because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They are stuck because they have become prisoners of their own thoughts. Every great achievement, every bold decision, every life-changing opportunity begins with a moment when someone chooses action over analysis. So today we're going to explore how to stop overthinking, break free from self-doubt, and build the kind of unshakable confidence that doesn't depend on success, approval, or perfect circumstances. Because the life you've been waiting for doesn't begin when you stop feeling afraid. It begins the moment you stop letting fear make your decisions. Have you ever noticed how much energy we spend trying to predict the future? We tell ourselves that if we think about something long enough, analyze every possible outcome, warn and prepare for every scenario, then somehow we will feel safe. We believe certainty will give us confidence. We believe that once we know exactly what will happen, we will finally be ready to move forward. The problem is that certainty does not exist. Most people spend their lives waiting for a feeling that never arrives. They wait for complete confidence before starting a business. They wait for guarantees before changing careers. They wait for the perfect moment before pursuing a dream. They wait until all their fears disappear before taking action. And while they are waiting, life continues moving forward without them. Think about it. Every important decision in your life came with uncertainty. The first day at a new job was uncertain. Starting a relationship was uncertain. Moving to a new place was uncertain. Learning a new skill was uncertain. Yet somehow, despite not knowing exactly what would happen, you found a way to move forward. The truth is that confidence has never come from certainty. Confidence comes from your ability to handle uncertainty. Many people believe successful individuals are fearless. They imagine that leaders, entrepreneurs, athletes, and high achievers possess some special ability that allows them to see the future more clearly than everyone else. But when you look closely, you discover something different. They do not have more certainty. They simply have a healthier relationship with uncertainty. They understand that waiting for every answer before taking action is a losing strategy. They know that clarity often comes after action, not before it. Imagine someone standing at the edge of a swimming pool. They want to learn how to swim, but they refuse to get into the water until they completely understand everything about swimming. They read books, watch videos, study techniques, and ask endless questions. Weeks pass, months pass, maybe even years pass, yet they still cannot swim because the knowledge they need can only come through experience. Life works the same way. There are lessons that cannot be learned through thinking alone. There are answers that reveal themselves only after you take the first step. There is confidence that develops only after you face uncertainty directly. Overthinking often disguises itself as responsibility. It tells you that you are being careful, intelligent, and strategic. Sometimes careful thinking is necessary. Planning matters. Preparation matters. But there comes a point where thinking stops helping and starts hurting. When you cross that line, your mind begins creating problems instead of solving them. You start imagining every possible mistake. You become obsessed with outcomes you cannot control. You create scenarios that may never happen. You replay conversations over and over. You question decisions you have already made. You search endlessly for reassurance. Instead of moving forward, you become trapped in a cycle of mental exhaustion. What makes this cycle so dangerous is that it feels productive. You convince yourself that you are making progress because you are thinking. But movement and progress are not the same thing. You can spend hours thinking about a goal without taking a single step toward it. You can spend years preparing for a future that never arrives. You can analyze an opportunity so thoroughly that you miss it entirely. The desire for certainty often comes from fear. Deep down, we are afraid of failure. We are afraid of rejection. We are afraid of embarrassment. We are afraid of making the wrong decision. So we try to eliminate risk by gathering more information and considering more possibilities. But there is always another possibility to consider. There is always another risk to evaluate. there is always another question to ask. If certainty is your requirement for action, you will remain stuck forever. The most powerful shift you can make is recognizing that uncertainty is not a sign to stop. It is a normal part of growth. Every meaningful opportunity comes wrapped in uncertainty. Every breakthrough begins with a step into the unknown. Every successful person you admire has faced moments where they did not know what would happen next. The difference is that they did not allow uncertainty to become an excuse. They accepted that they could not control every outcome. They focused on what they could control: their effort, their attitude, their preparation, and their willingness to learn. When you stop demanding certainty from life, something remarkable happens. Your attention shifts away from trying to predict the future and toward building the skills needed to face it. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you begin asking, "What if I can handle it?" Instead of asking, "How can I guarantee success?" you begin asking, "How can I grow through this experience?" Instead of searching for perfect answers, you start developing resilience. This is where real confidence begins. Not in knowing everything, not in controlling everything, not in guaranteeing outcomes. Real confidence comes from trusting yourself enough to move forward despite uncertainty. It comes from knowing that even if things do not go according to plan, you can adapt. It comes from understanding that mistakes are not proof of weakness, but opportunities for growth. It comes from realizing that progress belongs to those who are willing to act before they feel completely ready. The moment you stop demanding perfect certainty is the moment you reclaim your power. Because uncertainty is not the enemy standing in your way. The belief that you need certainty before taking action is what keeps you trapped. Every day you spend waiting for guarantees is a day you postpone your own potential. Every day you spend seeking perfect clarity is a day you delay the growth that only action can provide. The future has always belonged to those who are willing to move forward without having every answer, trusting that courage grows stronger with each step they take into the unknown. One of the biggest misconceptions about confidence is the belief that confident people feel ready before they act. We look at successful individuals and assume they must have possessed a special level of certainty before taking their first step. We imagine they were free from fear, doubt, and hesitation. We tell ourselves that once we feel the same way, then we will finally be able to move forward. But confidence rarely works like that. Most people are waiting for a feeling that is supposed to come before action. They believe motivation comes first, then action follows. They believe confidence comes first, then courage follows. They believe readiness comes first, then progress follows. In reality, the opposite is often true. Action creates confidence. Action creates momentum. Action creates clarity. The reason so many people remain stuck is because they have reversed the process. They are waiting to feel confident before they take action, when confidence is actually the result of taking action. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. No one becomes confident before getting on the bike. The first attempt is usually awkward. There is uncertainty. There is fear. There is the possibility of falling. Confidence develops through experience, not before it. With each attempt, the fear becomes smaller and the skill becomes stronger. The same principle applies to every area of life. Whether you want to start a business, speak in public, apply for a new opportunity, build relationships, learn a skill, or pursue a dream, confidence is built through movement. It is earned through action. Many people spend years preparing for things they could begin today. They read more books. They watch more videos. They wait for the perfect opportunity. They tell themselves they need just a little more knowledge, a little more preparation, or a little more certainty. Preparation is valuable, but preparation can also become a hiding place. Sometimes what appears to be preparation is actually fear disguised as productivity. You tell yourself you are getting ready when the truth is that you are avoiding discomfort. You tell yourself you need more information when the real challenge is taking the first step. You tell yourself the timing is not right when the real obstacle is fear of failure. The mind has a remarkable ability to create excuses that sound reasonable. It can convince you that waiting is wise even when waiting is costing you opportunities. Fear rarely announces itself openly. It does not always say, "I am afraid." Instead, it says things like, "I'll start next month. I need more experience. I need to think about it a little longer. I'm not ready yet. What if something goes wrong?" The problem is that there will always be reasons to delay. There will always be risks. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be situations that are less than perfect. If you make readiness a requirement for action, you may spend your entire life waiting. The people who make progress understand something important. They know that readiness is often created through action itself. A person does not become a great speaker by waiting until they are comfortable speaking. They become comfortable speaking by doing it repeatedly. A person does not become a successful entrepreneur by waiting until they know everything about business. They learn by building, adapting, and improving. A person does not become confident in relationships by avoiding vulnerability. They become confident by engaging, learning, and growing through experience. The first step is rarely perfect. The first attempt is rarely impressive. The first version is rarely extraordinary. But none of that matters because progress is built on imperfect beginnings. Many people underestimate the power of small actions. They think success requires a massive leap when often it begins with a small step, a single conversation, a single application, a single decision, a single attempt, a single moment of courage. Small actions may seem insignificant, but they have a powerful effect on the mind. Every time you take action despite fear, you send yourself a message. You prove that fear does not control you. You prove that uncertainty does not stop you. You prove that you are capable of moving forward. This creates a cycle that strengthens confidence. Action leads to experience. Experience leads to learning. Learning leads to competence. Competence leads to confidence. The more you act, the more evidence you collect that you can handle challenges. The more evidence you collect, the less power fear has over your decisions. Many people believe confidence comes from success alone, but some of the strongest confidence comes from surviving failure. When you try something and make mistakes, you discover something important. You discover that failure is not the end. You discover that setbacks are temporary. You discover that you can recover. You discover that growth often comes from experiences that did not go according to plan. This realization changes everything. Instead of viewing mistakes as disasters, you begin viewing them as lessons. Instead of seeing failure as proof that you should stop, you see it as part of the learning process. Instead of avoiding challenges, you start embracing them. Fear loses much of its power when you stop treating failure as something catastrophic. The goal is not to eliminate fear. The goal is to prevent fear from making your decisions. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in the presence of fear. Every confident person you admire has acted while feeling uncertain. Every successful individual has taken steps before they felt completely ready. Every meaningful achievement began with someone choosing action over hesitation. The difference between those who grow and those who remain stuck is often not intelligence, talent, or luck. It is the willingness to move before conditions are perfect. Life rewards motion. Opportunities appear when you engage. Skills develop when you practice. Confidence grows when you act. Waiting for confidence is like waiting for strength before entering the gym. The very thing you are waiting for is developed through the process you are avoiding. The person who takes imperfect action today will learn more than the person who spends months thinking about taking action. The person who starts now will gain experience that no amount of planning can provide. The person who is willing to be a beginner gains access to growth that remains unavailable to those who refuse to leave their comfort zone. Every step forward teaches you something valuable. Every action expands your comfort zone. Every challenge strengthens your ability to trust yourself. Every decision to move despite uncertainty builds the foundation of lasting confidence, creating proof through experience that you are far more capable than fear ever allowed you to believe. One of the greatest battles most people face is not with the world around them. It is with the voice inside their own head. That voice constantly questions their abilities, doubts their decisions, and magnifies their weaknesses. It tells them they are not smart enough, talented enough, experienced enough, or capable enough. It convinces them that others are more qualified, more confident, and more prepared. This voice is known as self-doubt. Self-doubt affects people from every background and every level of success. It does not disappear simply because someone achieves a goal, earns recognition, or reaches a higher position. Many people who appear confident on the outside still experience moments of uncertainty on the inside. The problem is not that self-doubt exists. The problem is when self-doubt becomes the loudest voice in your life. Many people treat every doubtful thought as if it were a fact. The moment uncertainty enters their mind, they automatically believe it. They assume that because they feel afraid, they must be incapable. Because they feel nervous, they must not be ready. Because they experience doubt, they must not have what it takes. But thoughts are not facts. Feelings are not predictions. Fear is not evidence. Your mind produces thousands of thoughts every day. Some are helpful. Some are accurate. Some are completely false. Yet many people never stop to question the stories they tell themselves. Imagine someone standing in front of a mirror every morning and hearing a voice that constantly points out flaws. Day after day, year after year, that voice repeats the same message. Eventually, they begin believing it. Not because it is true, but because it has been repeated so often. The same thing happens with self-doubt. When you repeatedly tell yourself that you are not capable, your mind begins accepting that story as reality. When you constantly focus on your mistakes, your failures, and your weaknesses, you start viewing yourself through a distorted lens. The challenge is that self-doubt often sounds convincing. It presents itself as logic. It presents itself as realism. It presents itself as caution. But beneath those disguises is often fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of disappointment. Self-doubt gains power when you place more trust in your fears than in your abilities. Self-trust is the opposite. Self-trust is not believing that you will never fail. Self-trust is believing that you can handle whatever happens. It is confidence in your ability to learn, adapt, recover, and grow. Many people think confidence means having all the answers. In reality, confidence comes from trusting yourself even when answers are unclear. Consider how trust develops between people. Trust is not built through words alone. It is built through repeated experiences. When someone consistently follows through on their promises, trust grows. When they demonstrate reliability over time, trust becomes stronger. The relationship you have with yourself works the same way. If you constantly break promises to yourself, self-trust weakens. If you repeatedly abandon your goals, ignore your commitments, and avoid challenges, you send yourself a message that your own word cannot be trusted. Over time, this creates a gap between what you say you want and what you actually do. That gap becomes fertile ground for self-doubt. Every time you tell yourself you will start tomorrow and fail to follow through, self-doubt becomes stronger. Every time you allow fear to dictate your actions, self-doubt gains another piece of evidence. Every time you avoid discomfort, self-trust loses strength. Building self-trust requires a different approach. It begins with keeping small promises to yourself, simple commitments, simple actions, simple decisions. When you say you will do something, do it. When you commit to a goal, honor it. When you make a promise to yourself, treat it with the same respect you would give a promise made to someone else. The size of the promise is less important than the consistency of keeping it. Many people underestimate how powerful this process can be. Every fulfilled commitment becomes evidence. Evidence that you are reliable. Evidence that you are capable. Evidence that you can depend on yourself. Self-trust grows through accumulated proof. Not positive thinking alone. Not motivational speeches alone. Not wishful thinking alone. Through action. Imagine two people facing the same challenge. The first person focuses entirely on their fears. They think about everything that could go wrong. They question their abilities. They assume failure before they begin. Their attention remains fixed on uncertainty. The second person also feels fear. They also experience doubt. But instead of becoming trapped by those feelings, they focus on what they can control. They trust their ability to learn along the way. They trust themselves to adapt if obstacles appear. They trust themselves to recover if mistakes occur. The difference is not the absence of fear. The difference is the presence of self-trust. Self-trust changes how you interpret challenges. Without self-trust, if every obstacle feels like proof that you are not good enough. With self-trust, obstacles become opportunities to learn. Without self-trust, mistakes become evidence of weakness. With self-trust, mistakes become part of growth. Without self-trust, uncertainty feels threatening. With self-trust, uncertainty becomes manageable. One of the most damaging habits people develop is constantly comparing themselves to others. They look at someone else's success and assume that person is more confident. They compare their behind the scenes struggles to someone else's public achievements. They focus on what others have accomplished while ignoring how far they have come themselves. Comparison feeds self-doubt because it shifts your attention away from your own progress. It encourages you to measure your worth using standards that were never meant for you. The more you compare, the more you overlook your own strengths. The more you overlook your strengths, the easier it becomes to doubt yourself. Self-trust requires looking inward instead of outward. It requires recognizing your growth. It requires acknowledging your resilience. It requires remembering the challenges you have already overcome. Every difficult moment you survived is evidence. Every obstacle you faced is evidence. Every lesson you learned is evidence. Every setback you recovered from is evidence. You are stronger than many of your doubts would have you believe. You are more capable than many of your fears suggest. You have already overcome challenges that once seemed impossible. The problem is that self-doubt has a habit of making you forget your own history. It highlights failures while ignoring victories. It magnifies weaknesses while minimizing strengths. It focuses on what could go wrong while overlooking everything you have already handled successfully. Replacing self-doubt with self-trust does not mean eliminating uncertainty. It means choosing to believe in your ability to navigate uncertainty. It means recognizing that your value is not determined by a single outcome. It means understanding that confidence is not built by proving you will never fail, but by proving to yourself again and again that you can face challenges, learn from mistakes, honor your commitments, and continue moving forward regardless of the obstacles that appear in your path. One of the fastest ways to create stress, anxiety, and overthinking is to focus on things you cannot control. Many people spend enormous amounts of time worrying about situations, outcomes, and opinions that are completely outside their influence. They replay scenarios in their minds, trying to solve problems that have not happened yet. They exhaust themselves attempting to manage variables that were never theirs to manage in the first place. The result is frustration. The result is helplessness. The result is mental exhaustion. What makes this habit so common is that it feels natural. Human beings want certainty. We want predictable outcomes. We want guarantees. We want things to unfold exactly as planned. When life becomes uncertain, the mind automatically searches for ways to regain control. The challenge is that the mind often searches in the wrong places. It focuses on things that cannot be controlled rather than the things that can. You cannot control what other people think about you. You cannot control every obstacle that appears in your path. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control unexpected setbacks. You cannot control the past. You cannot control every opportunity you miss. You cannot control whether everyone approves of your choices. Yet many people spend their days fighting battles against these realities. They worry about opinions they cannot change. They obsess over mistakes they cannot undo. They stress about future events they cannot predict. They attempt to force outcomes that remain beyond their influence. The more they focus on these things, the more powerless they feel. Imagine trying to control the weather. You can complain about the rain. You can become angry about the storm. You can spend hours wishing conditions were different, but no amount of frustration changes the weather. Your energy is consumed, yet nothing improves. Life often works the same way. When you direct your attention toward things beyond your control, you drain your mental and emotional resources without creating meaningful results. This is one of the hidden causes of overthinking. People convince themselves that worrying is productive. They believe that if they think about a problem long enough, they can somehow gain control over it. But worrying and controlling are not the same thing. In fact, excessive worry often creates the illusion of control while reducing your ability to take effective action. Consider how much time people spend worrying about what others think. They hesitate to speak because someone might judge them. They avoid opportunities because someone might criticize them. They stay silent because someone might disagree. They hold themselves back because someone might not approve. The truth is that other people's opinions have always been outside your control. No matter how hard you try, you cannot force everyone to understand you. You cannot force everyone to support you. You cannot force everyone to agree with you. You cannot force everyone to like you. The moment you accept this reality, something powerful happens. You stop wasting energy chasing approval and begin investing that energy into growth. Instead of controlling opinions, you focus on controlling your character. Instead of controlling reactions, you focus on controlling your actions. Instead of controlling perceptions, you focus on controlling your effort. This shift creates freedom. Another area where people often struggle is their relationship with the future. Many individuals spend enormous amounts of time worrying about things that may never happen. They imagine failure before they begin. They anticipate rejection before they take action. They create worst-case scenarios before evidence exists. Their minds become occupied with fictional problems. The future becomes a source of constant stress because they attempt to control events that have not yet occurred. The irony is that this habit steals their ability to influence the present. While worrying about tomorrow, they neglect today. While imagining future challenges, they ignore current opportunities. While predicting outcomes, they avoid taking meaningful action. The present moment is where your influence exists. It is where decisions are made. It is where habits are formed. It is where growth occurs. It is where progress begins. Yet many people sacrifice their present power because they are obsessed with controlling an uncertain future. Focusing on what you can control does not mean ignoring reality. It does not mean pretending problems do not exist. It means directing your energy toward areas where your actions can actually make a difference. You may not control the outcome, but you control your effort. You may not control circumstances, but you control your response. You may not control opportunities, but you control your preparation. You may not control challenges, but you control your attitude. You may not control success, but you control your commitment. This distinction changes everything. When people become consumed by things they cannot control, they often develop a victim mindset. They begin believing their happiness depends entirely on external factors. They convince themselves that confidence will arrive when circumstances improve, when the economy improves, when other people become supportive, when life becomes easier, when uncertainty disappears, when everything goes according to plan. The problem is that life rarely operates according to these conditions. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be challenges. There will always be factors beyond your influence. If your confidence depends on controlling everything around you, confidence will remain fragile. True confidence emerges when you stop demanding control over everything. It develops when you recognize the difference between influence and control. You may not control every event, but you influence how you respond. You may not control every challenge, but you influence your preparation. You may not control every outcome, but you influence your actions. This understanding creates resilience. Resilient people do not waste excessive energy fighting realities they cannot change. They acknowledge them. They adapt to them. They move forward despite them. Think about the strongest people you know. They are not strong because life has been easy. They are strong because they learn to focus their energy wisely. They learn to separate what is within their control from what is outside it. They learn that emotional energy is valuable. They learn that attention is valuable. They learn that time is valuable. Instead of scattering these resources across endless worries, they direct them toward meaningful action. This approach does not eliminate problems. It changes your relationship with problems. You stop viewing every obstacle as something that must be completely controlled. You start viewing obstacles as situations that require thoughtful responses. You stop trying to manage every possibility. You focus on managing yourself. You stop fighting uncertainty. You learn to function within it. You stop chasing guarantees. You develop adaptability. When your attention remains fixed on what you can control, your mind becomes clearer. Your decisions become stronger. Your confidence becomes more stable. You spend less time worrying and more time acting. You become less dependent on external circumstances and more dependent on your own choices. Your energy shifts away from fear and toward progress. Your focus moves away from imagined problems and toward practical solutions. Your attention returns to the areas where your actions truly matter, allowing you to build a life based not on controlling everything around you, but on mastering the things within your power every single day. Many people believe confidence is something you either have or you do not have. They see confident individuals speaking boldly, taking risks, and pursuing opportunities, and they assume those people were born with a special quality that others lack. They treat confidence as a personality trait rather than a skill. As a result, they spend years waiting for confidence to appear instead of building it. The truth is that confidence is not something you find. It is something you create. And one of the most reliable ways to create confidence is through consistent action. Confidence is built the same way a strong body is built. It is not developed through a single workout. It is not created in one day. It grows through repetition. It grows through commitment. It grows through small actions performed consistently over time. Many people are looking for dramatic transformations. They want instant results. They want immediate certainty. They want overnight success. But lasting confidence rarely arrives in dramatic moments. More often, it is the product of small actions repeated day after day. Imagine two people who want to become stronger. The first person exercises intensely for one day and then quits for several weeks. The second person performs small workouts consistently every day. The second person will almost always achieve better results because consistency beats intensity when intensity cannot be maintained. Confidence follows the same principle. A single burst of motivation can feel powerful, but motivation comes and goes. Consistent action creates something far more valuable. It creates evidence. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you create evidence that you are capable. Every time you complete a task despite resistance, you create evidence that you are disciplined. Every time you take action despite fear, you create evidence that you are courageous. Confidence grows from this collection of evidence. The problem is that many people underestimate the importance of small victories. They believe confidence can only come from major achievements. They think they need a huge breakthrough before they can feel good about themselves. But confidence is often built long before major success arrives. It is built in everyday moments. Waking up when you said you would, completing the work you planned to do, keeping promises to yourself, practicing a skill when no one is watching, showing up even when you do not feel motivated. These actions may seem insignificant, but they strengthen your relationship with yourself. Each one sends a message that says, I can trust myself, a message that says, I follow through, a message that says, I do what I say I will do. This is how confidence becomes real, not through words, not through wishes, not through positive thinking alone, through behavior. One reason people struggle with confidence is because they focus too much on outcomes and not enough on consistency. They become obsessed with results. They judge themselves based on how quickly success arrives. When results are delayed, they become discouraged. When progress is slow, they lose motivation. When setbacks occur, they question themselves. But confidence is not built by controlling results. Results are often influenced by factors outside your control. Confidence is built by controlling your actions. You may not control when success arrives. You do control whether you show up today. You may not control every opportunity. You do control your preparation. You may not control every outcome. You do control your effort. The people who develop lasting confidence understand this distinction. They focus on the process. They focus on habits. They focus on consistency. They understand that every action is a vote for the person they want to become. A single action may seem small. A single decision may seem insignificant. But repeated actions shape identity. When you repeatedly act with discipline, you begin seeing yourself as disciplined. When you repeatedly face challenges, you begin seeing yourself as resilient. When you repeatedly honor commitments, you begin seeing yourself as reliable. Your identity gradually changes because your behavior provides proof. Many people try to feel confident first and act later. But confidence often follows action. The more you act, the more evidence you gather. The more evidence you gather, the more confidence develops. This creates positive momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal growth. When you consistently take action, progress becomes easier. Not because challenges disappear, but because your belief in yourself becomes stronger. You begin trusting your ability to handle obstacles. You begin trusting your ability to learn. You begin trusting your ability to adapt. This trust makes future actions easier to take. The opposite is also true. When people repeatedly avoid challenges, confidence weakens. Every avoided opportunity becomes evidence of fear. Every broken commitment becomes evidence of inconsistency. Every excuse reinforces self-doubt. Over time, these patterns shape how people see themselves. That is why consistency matters so much. Consistency is not just about achieving goals. It is about shaping identity. Every action teaches your mind something about who you are. If your actions repeatedly communicate weakness, hesitation, and avoidance, your confidence suffers. If your actions repeatedly communicate courage, discipline, and commitment, your confidence grows. Many people wait for a moment when they suddenly feel different. They expect confidence to arrive like a lightning bolt. But confidence is usually much quieter than that. It grows gradually. It develops through repetition. It strengthens through experience. You may not notice it immediately. You may not wake up one day feeling transformed. But after weeks and months of consistent action, something changes. The things that once intimidated you become manageable. The challenges that once felt overwhelming become familiar. The fears that once controlled your decisions lose their influence. You begin realizing that confidence is not a feeling you discovered. It is a strength you built. A person who consistently practices public speaking becomes more confident speaking. A person who consistently exercises becomes more confident physically. A person who consistently develops skills becomes more confident professionally. A person who consistently faces fears becomes more confident emotionally. The pattern remains the same. Action creates experience. Experience creates competence. Competence creates confidence. This process cannot be rushed. It cannot be skipped. It cannot be replaced by wishing, hoping, or waiting. It requires participation. It requires effort. It requires consistency. The good news is that you do not need perfect conditions to begin. You do not need extraordinary talent. You do not need endless motivation. You do not need complete certainty. You only need the willingness to take the next step and then repeat that step consistently. Every day you choose action over excuses, discipline over comfort, and commitment over convenience. You strengthen the foundation of your confidence. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes proof of your capability. Every challenge you face becomes evidence of your growth. Every small victory accumulates into a stronger sense of self, creating an unshakable confidence that is not dependent on luck, approval, or circumstances, but rooted in the consistent actions you choose to take every single day.